Welcome to part 4 of my n8n training course. This part will focus on branching, and I have structured it into 3 points. First of all, I'd like to define branching, and I'm going to give you an example in n8n how branching could be implemented. Then I would like to present you a task, and then by the end we can discuss a possible solution to that task. Okay, let's start with branching. So, branching is the introduction of a decision point in the workflow where conditions determine which path of n possible paths is followed. So if you have watched part 1 of my n8n training course, you already know what branching is and you already know what a decision point is. If you did not, no problem. A decision point is a point in our workflow where we evaluate certain conditions before we go on. Okay? So let's open up n8n and let's create such a workflow. In your n8n dashboard, please click on Create Workflow to create a new workflow. Then right here we are going to create a new manual trigger. And the first thing we want to do is we want to create some data, okay? We want to create a field that says x equals 1. So let's do this. Okay, here click on Add Field and say that the name is x, the data type is number, and the value is 1. Okay, let's connect the manual trigger with the set node. And now let's just execute this workflow. Okay, x equals 1. So now we want to create a decision point. Okay, so where we evaluate if x is actually 1. So now we click on plus and we have a look at the types of nodes. And we want to integrate something that controls the flow. So this category looks promising. Let's have a look at flow. We're gonna pick the if node here. Let's go back to canvas. Let's position the if node right here next to the set node, and let's connect this. Okay. Let's have a double click on the if node. So right now, let's execute a step. I mean, the data has already arrived here, but let's just execute it again. You should always execute nodes so that that n8n knows what type of data will land in the input fields. Okay, let's execute it. Okay. We can see now that in the input field here that x equals 1. And let's just have a look at the JSON tab right here. So this is the actual internal representation of the input. This is an array that has one item, and this one item is an object that has one key value pair that is x equals 1. So just if you have watched part 3 of my n8n training course, you know what this is. An array that has one object with one key value pair. Okay? Let's go back to schema. What we want to do now is we want to check if x equals 1. So let's drag and drop x to this left side of the condition, and now we see that there are 2 curly brackets opening and 2 curly brackets closing. This means that inside of those 4 curly brackets JavaScript is being evaluated. Okay, so now we are accessing $JSON, which is an object, and more specifically .x. Okay, so we are accessing .x and we are checking if .x is 1. So first of all, we are going to specify the data type, which is number, and then we are going to set it to is equal to. On the right side, we're going to replace the 0 with the 1, and then we're going to execute the step. So right here at the bottom, you can see that there was no error, that the execution was successful. Let's go back to Canvas. Right here, you can see that there are two outgoing arrows. One that indicates the next node if x is 1, if this condition is true. The other one that indicates what happens after the condition has not been met. So if x is not 1. Okay, so what we want to do now is, in the case of true, we want to create a set node that creates a new field message. And this message says x is 1. Wonderful. Okay. Let's create a new set node here. Let's go back to Canvas. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that this is connected. It's automatically connected. Okay. Let's have a double click here. And right here, nothing happens. Okay, so let's add a new field that we're going to call message. And message is a string, and we say x is 1. Okay, let's go back to Canvas. And let's create another set field that is being followed when this condition here is not met. Okay, other set node. So now n8n automatically has connected this set node with that set node. This is wrong. So now what we're going to do is we're going to delete this connection by hovering with our mouse over the arrow. And now we're going to click this trash icon here. Okay, removed. Let's reposition the set node down here. And let's connect the fault route with this set node. Let's have a double click here. And here in this set node, nothing happens. There is no data. Let's create a field that we're also going to name message. And now let's say x is not 1. Okay. And let's go back to Canvas. Let's execute the entire workflow. And now down here, we see a list of the sequence of steps. Okay, it starts from the top and ends at the bottom. So the last step was edit fields number 1, this one here. And this has created some data, message equals x is 1, exclamation mark. Okay, let's play a bit around with the values here. Let's open up this node here by double clicking it. And let's reset this or reassign this to 5. And go back to Canvas. And let's click on execute workflow. Now we see that the last item here, the last action here in this sequence of actions, added fields, has been executed, and here we see that the message is x is not 1. Welcome to the task. Please create an n8n workflow that has one manual trigger. Then create one set node that defines two variables a and b. A is initially set to true and b is set to hello. Then add an if node, a decision point that checks whether a is false or B is hello, then if this entire condition is true, print out A is false or B is hello. If not, print out A is true and B is not hello. Have fun solving this task, and you may pause this video now until you're done with your solution, and then we can compare the solutions. Welcome to the solution of the task. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new workflow, and then we are going to create the manual trigger here. And now let's create a set node that creates the first variable that we're going to call A, and this is from the data type, or is of data type Boolean, and it is true. Okay. The second field, the second variable is called B, and the value is hello. Let's go back to Canvas. Okay. Looks good. So right here we're going to create our decision point. So let's create the if node here, and let's connect the if node with the set node here. Double click on the if node, and now we can see that in the input field here we have A and B ready. So now we can drag and drop to the first, so we can drag and drop A to the first condition. And what we're gonna check now is if A equals false. So let's click on this operator here. Let's hover over Boolean, and now we check if A is false. Okay. Let's add a second condition down here, and the combination of those two conditions is or. So we can change that here. So we say that or. This means that either one of those, also either the first or the second condition, is true. Then we can evaluate the entire condition to be true. So we set this to or, and then we drag and drop B right here in this field, and then we're gonna check if the string matches the hello. Okay, and now we can already execute the step. So this step was executed successfully, and now we can create the set node in case that the condition is true. So let's create the set node here, and we're gonna say that the message is A is false or B is hello. Okay, go back to Canvas, and now let's directly click on the little plus here in order to make sure that the new node is directly added here from this false route. So let's look for set. And here we're going to create also the message field. And here we're going to print out the negation of the other statements. So now we say that A is true and B is not hello. Let's go back to Canvas, and let's execute the workflow. And here in the last item of this action sequence here, we see that A is false or B is hello. Now we can play around with the values a little bit. We can, for example, B is good morning. Okay, let's go back to Canvas. Let's execute the workflow again. And now we can say that A is true and B is not hello.